Hey guys, I am the Comics Kid 2099, and I am here to do a really short review of a graphic novel that I finished reading just a couple minutes ago, Battle Gods. The subtitle is Warriors of the Chaak, and I will explain what Chaak is in a minute. See, it's two A's there, so I'm kind of overpronouncing Chaak. And this was a 9-issue miniseries done by Dark Horse Comics. Actually, I don't know if it was done by Dark Horse, because I know Dark Horse has a tendency, if something is done somewhere else, like I know Alice in Sunderland was done in Great Britain under a British comic book company, and then Dark Horse Comics reprinted it. So sometimes they will reprint things that weren't originally done at their parent company, but this was printed by Dark Horse at one time. And I got this, if you have watched my most recent haul video, which was a little bit a week ago, roughly, about a week ago, if you saw that, you know that I got this book the last time I went to go visit my sister. She lives a couple of hours away, and so I read this recently, and I didn't really like it all that much. First, I guess I'll explain it real quickly. On the back, it says, "It's as if Jack Kirby turned Chariots of the Gods into an arcade fighting game." Now, I should go ahead and mention, on the same trip where I got this, I got Neil Gaiman's Eternals miniseries that came out around 2006. The Eternals was a series created by Jack Kirby in the 1970s, and that series was influenced by the novel Chariots of the Gods. It was a little strange to me that I got two books that were both indirectly influenced by Chariots of the Gods, and this even says, what if Jack Kirby was influenced by that, which he was when he created the Eternals. Ultimately, I don't get a whole lot of a Kirby vibe from this, and I can't really explain what I mean. Basically, you just kind of have to know Jack Kirby's work, and you have to look at it and say, yeah, that reminds me of Jack Kirby, or no, that really doesn't. And this does not. What this did remind me of was, if you've ever watched the TV show Dragon Ball, or read the manga that the TV show was based on, there were times, like in the manga, they would do a gigantic fighting tournament that would take 2 or 3 volumes, and this in a lot of ways reminded me of that. Here we have a shape-shifting gorilla with the mind of a human. We have alienish looking people with giant robot suits. We have people who use sorcery. All of this is happening in a fighting tournament where it seems that there are no rules at all. And all of this is happening, I guess you could say this is sort of the B story. I feel like if this was an action movie, the fighting stuff is what the people would be going to see. The A story, which doesn't take up as much room in the story as you might think, there are these gods, and they are worried that this bigger god named Huracan, which in Spanish stands for hurricane, they are afraid that Huracan is going to wake up. And anytime a human being goes into one of the temples of the gods, you've got these lesser gods, they start saying, oh no, there's an intruder, we have to kill him. So apparently, walking into a temple is what will wake up Huracan. And every time a human being is even close to one of these temples, the gods are saying, oh no, it's gonna wake up the god. And also you've got this guy thousands of years ago. This story I think is set in like 2500, something like that. Around 750 AD, you had this guy who tried to steal the power of the gods, and then he got turned into a statue, and one of the lesser gods cut off his head when he was a statue, and they threw the head into a forest. And then it's like, okay, good, that takes care of that. But if someone takes the head and they put it back on the statue, all of the power of the gods is going to be released onto somebody. It's not really made especially clear. In the present-day story, you've got this mercenary who has been hired by one of the people in the tournament to find the head and put it on the body. What I don't get is, if this is such a bad thing, why didn't the lesser gods just destroy the head, turn it into dust, destroy the body, turn it into dust, so that there is no way that this power can be re-released onto the world, because it was seemingly released onto the world at one point, and they don't want that to happen because, once again, that will wake up the god Huracan. I don't really understand it. It's one of those things where it's like, well, this kind of illogical thing has to happen in order for the plot to happen, but it makes no sense why the characters wouldn't use their brains and say, hey, if we just completely destroy the statue, then we'll be okay and they won't wake up Huracan. Whatever. I said I didn't really like this story. The premise is okay. I liked Dragon Ball when I was a kid. I even liked it somewhat recently. I think a year or two ago, I bought a couple of Dragon Ball novels. So, not novels, the volumes. I guess graphic novels is what they are, but I have a few of them, 4 of the Dragon Ball novels. So, I keep saying novels, volumes. I don't mind lots of fun fighting stuff, but I feel like, and I don't want to say there needs to be a story, because this book was pretty upfront in saying that this is basically a fighting game, an arcade game. So I don't want to say, hey, you guys should have a deep, subtle story, because that's not what this book is trying to do. But I do think that you need to have characters who are unique and have personalities all their own. And I feel like this book fails at that. There are 3 guys here. They're all buddies. They all entered a tournament. I feel like all 3 of them are virtually interchangeable. One of them is from Japan. One of them is from India. One of them is from Russia. And that's all we know about these guys. Actually, the Indian guy, we do know that his family is enslaved, and he is entering the tournament to free his family. But we don't know anything else about it. We don't know how his family got enslaved. We don't know the circumstances behind that. We've got these 2 girls who entered a tournament. One of them is a tough girl. One of them is slightly more innocent. That's all we know about them. This book has like 9 or 10 characters, and ultimately none of them feel fully fleshed out or 3-dimensional. They all just feel kind of flat and boring. We know superficial things like, hey, this guy is from Japan, and that's all we know about these characters. And I really don't feel like any story is worth reading or worth wasting your time on, it could be a movie, if the characters are not real to you. And these characters do not feel real to me. When you can take a character's dialogue and give it to another character, and it doesn't feel like the dialogue needs to be changed at all, then you've got a pretty boring character who's not even really a character. These guys in this story, they are just vessels for the plot to happen. And that's unfortunate, because I wanted to enjoy this. This looked like a lot of fun. I really like Jack Kirby. I really like the concept of gods kind of living on Earth, and even this doesn't really use that concept a whole lot. The back of the book is talking about Chariots of the Gods, which that story, that novel written in the 1960s, was actually what if aliens came and had some sort of meddling in humanity thousands of years ago, and they had a hand in our society being what it is today. That's the loose premise of Chariots of the Gods. This doesn't even feel anything like that. This is just typical Mayan gods are afraid that a bigger Mayan god is going to wake up and destroy the world. And it doesn't really feel like what it advertises itself as in the back of the book, which is Jack Kirby plus Chariots of the Gods plus arcade game. They have the arcade game thing down pat. The other 2 things are really not there at all, and that's a shame. Overall, I would have to say, if you see this book, give it a pass. It's not really that great. The characters are pretty boring. The story is fairly obvious. Once you get to a certain point, you can kind of see where the story is going. I did get through it pretty quickly. This is a 9-issue mini, and I got through it in just a couple hours. I started it yesterday, but the first 15 pages were really hard to get through because it's trying to introduce so many characters, and you don't really know what's going on at first, but then after that first 15 pages, you kind of figure out what's going on, and from that point, it becomes really predictable, unfortunately. But I will say this book was a very quick read, 9 issues, and I got through it in very little time at all. But ultimately, that's not really a plus or a minus. That's just kind of an observation. Hey, it didn't take me long to read this. If you like that sort of thing, if you want something that's really quick and easy to get through, I guess you could pick this up. But overall, this book was not worth the $4 that I paid for it. I got this very cheap at a used bookstore, and I still don't think that it was that great, even considering I paid what you would pay for a single issue of a comic book now. It still wasn't that good. So that was my thoughts on this book. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've read this book, Battle of the Gods, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Did you agree with my thoughts on this video? If you did, also tell me in the comments below. I also encourage you guys to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Do all of those things that you love doing on YouTube videos, and I will be back tomorrow with a different kind of video. Until then, I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.